Hi, I'm Chris Warnock of Renaissance Astrology. Today I'd like to talk about turning the fear of magic into joy in magic. And, I do get a lot of emails and even phone calls from people, and often they're showing a lot of fear. They're worried about, the consequences of the talismans. They're afraid that they've made a mistake. They're afraid there's going to be some terrible consequences. And if they don't do it exactly right, then there's going to be some terrible blowback. And so, and I think that's not unreasonable. I understand where people are coming from because in our society, most of us don't have any direct experience with magic before. This may be something we've done for the first time. And in fact, our society, we come from a Judeo-Christian background, and so for the past 2,000 years or so, we've been told by the church and other spiritual authorities that anything outside of their control, any way of it contacting the spiritual realm or any kind of magical working is very dangerous. In fact, it's evil. And so that's the propaganda that's sort of been encoded into our cultural DNA. So it's not surprising that people get nervous about it because that's what they sort of picked up from the background. And then when you add in the fact that around the Enlightenment, about the 18th century, the official arbiters of reality in our society, the philosophers and the scientists, decided that there was no spiritual realm. So it's going to be particularly difficult to engage with the spiritual when people are not even sure whether it exists or not. And so in the back of their mind, there's sort of nagging doubts about it. So, I think that's not too surprising that people are worried about it. So, as we approach astrological magic, and that's what I'll be talking about today, because that's what I know about, when we approach astrological magic, basically what can we do to be sure that we're on the right track and so that we're not, making any significant or serious mistakes. And I think the first thing we can do, and this is probably true for all kinds of magic, but definitely for astrological magic as well, is that we can make sure that what we're trying to do is positive. If we're trying to help people, if we're trying to, to bring wealth for ourselves, of course that's fine. But if you're trying to curse someone, if you're trying to hurt someone, if you're trying to cause pain or suffering to anyone, then that's really problematic. And you certainly have, a lot higher chance of blowback and negative effects on yourself if you're trying to get a negative effect for somebody else. So I think that's the first thing that we can do, is to make sure that the magic that we're working for and the results that we're looking for are positive. Then the next step is to make sure that we're acting in a respectful way. And so what I mean respectful, think about a talisman, particularly for astrological magic, we're focused on talismans. If you have a talisman, treat it like you got a gift from a rich uncle. In other words, you're not going to leave it laying in the dirt. You're not going to let the dog chew on it. You're not just going to toss it out. You're going to show some respect. And by showing respect for the talisman, you're showing respect to the spirit. It's the same thing with invocation. I think while there are styles of magic that are more commanding, and that's fine, there's a tradition of that, I feel much more comfortable and much safer with a style of magic and a style of invocation that's more devotional. That's sort of looking up to these spirits, that appreciates them, that shows some respect, and doesn't try to order them around or command them. I just think that's a lot safer. And certainly in my magical practice that comes from Picatrix, that's our main source, we don't do magical circles, we don't do protective magic, particularly against the spirits. I do an initial purification of the space, but that's basically to chase away any sort of, bystander spirits that are just kind of hanging around. As far as the spirits of the planets or the stars themselves, since we're focusing on the highest possible archangelic and angelic manifestations of those planets and stars, we just haven't had the problems that other people have worried about. If you're dealing with goetic spirits, you're dealing with downright demons, then you've potentially got problems, but that's absolutely not what we're doing. And so when we're respectful, the next step then is to become knowledgeable. The more we know about the subject, the more we know about the type of magic we're doing, the more we know about magic in general, the better we are off, the less chance of making a mistake or having a problem. And finally then, you want to be as experienced as possible. So again, the more ritual you do, the more magic that you do, the more comfortable you are with it and the less nervous you are about doing it. Definitely the first time you do a ritual, you're going to feel kind of uncomfortable. This is something new for you. After you've done it 100 times, then obviously it's less of a problem. And so I've done ritual now for about 15 years. I even do a daily planetary ritual. And, you know, at that point, feel very confident about how I'm related to the planets, and very positive about it. And in fact, the ritual that I do is very inspiring to me and very uplifting. So I think the final thing that people are afraid of is that they're afraid it's not going to work. And, you know, certainly there's, like I said, a fear of that because the society itself says it doesn't work. Well, my experience is that magic does work. Now, it doesn't work 100% of the time. Because in many cases what we're trying to do is we have a particular goal and we want it regardless of what, you know, the circumstances are. And you know, depending on, for example, if you want wealth, you know, what's your personal fate for wealth? You know, what's going on in the economy right now? You know, how much wealth you're trying to get, and again, what spirits you're trying to deal with. So certainly in that case, if you want a specific goal, it may not always work. And really, it's perfectly fine to go into this looking for a specific goal, but you just have to recognize that you may not get it. Now, that doesn't mean that it's all garbage just because you didn't get exactly what you wanted on the first try, or, you know, you didn't win the lottery. But, you know, for me, it's easier, for example, when I do a Jupiter invocation, rather than asking for a specific sum of money or even money, I usually just ask for sufficient sustenance. And I'm even to the point now where I'm happy to hang out with the planets. Though I will, like I said, ask for general goals, because I think it's a good idea to sort of keep your focus in that direction, because even our intention has some power, even though most of the power is coming from astrological talismans and is coming from these external spirits that we're dealing with. So, you know, really, like I said, I hate to see people being afraid of magic when it can be such a source of joy and inspiration. And also even, you know, tangible material benefits. We don't want to downplay those. You know, I look around at my life, and I'm a full-time professional astrologer, you know, and I have a house and a car. And that's all really, to my mind, the fruits of the magic that I performed with the spirits. So, as I said, you want to learn as much as you can, be as respectful as you can, and stay as positive as you can. And in that case, you're going to be able to dissipate a lot of that fear, and you'll find that your magic will as well become joyful. So thanks, it's good talking to you again, and for more information, as always, you can always go to renaissanceastrology.com.